those places where from the bay, not a lot of space in between waters are no matter where you are. Liz Byro is at Nervous Nellies right now, and this is one of the places, first of all, such trouble after Ian, but you see a lot of water behind you. Hard to tell how deep that is, Liz.
Oh yeah, Chris. I mean, we're not crazy deep water, right? But it definitely is high enough that, you know, you don't drive a car.
Liz was standing just to the north island. We're going to take you over to the pink so we can take a look at what the scene looks like on the northern end of Estero Island. You can see all the pool, nobody in it at this time. However, you see the palm trees blowing in the wind and the wave. The surf really elevated today, but we are at low tide there, or so much more of the beach is exposed at this time than it was this morning when high tide was encroaching tiki structures right there. So it's looking much better there. Let's hope it stays that way despite the surge that we are this afternoon.
Your head's now in Tin City, and this is from this morning, and you see a lot of the water coming up and over the pier there, and where the boats are supposed to be docked underwater. Viewer video coming in at 8:30. Again, a lot of very close-ups, but the water is not usually this deep by any stretch of the imagination. As you walk along the water at Tin City, all the businesses there that are also very low to the ground and very susceptible to water. And restaurants, you saw a glimpse of the building there for just a second off across the shot, but none of this is supposed to be underwater, so tide and surge will be a huge concern there as the tide starts to come up this afternoon in the Naples area and in Collier County.
All right, we want to go back to the pink shell so we can show you some more pictures from a different angle here along the roadway. You can see cars still moving around. I'm not exactly sure what time this was. This was about 9:30 this morning, I believe, as we took a drive near the pink shell. There we are near Times Square, not far from Times Square on Estero Island. Lauren Kreidler and Emma Heaton, I believe, were on that, getting this video for us. The road was a little bit flooded, and there you saw some sun peeking out, but the enhanced surf that we're not used to seeing. This is San Carlos Boulevard. This is on the way to Estero Island. Still saw water when they got on Estero Island.
And speaking of areas that flood very easily, let's head to Pine Island now, in St. James City specifically, where you see some very high water sent in from a viewer from Barbara this morning. There's also the palm trees blowing in the wind over there. A lot of wind at the time that this was coming in. And I think we have another shot from, yeah, you can see how high that water is up to the boats, which are hopefully that's raised enough as it comes in, and that is her house right there, I assume, or someone's house, and the water is coming right up to the house at this point, over the top there on occasion. So again, we have another high tide coming, we have another round of storm surge coming, and all of these areas that, you know, did okay so far. It went up, it came down. We'll have to see how this is going to be a longer ramp up.
North to the North County right now, and you know, near El Bean. Haley, tell us what you're experiencing there.
Well, as you see, I'm 5'9", so I'm pretty tall, but this water right here is just past my ankles. We're talking shin length here off of Hall Avenue. And El Jobin, we got a tip about the flooding here, and in the tip, they said you can't tell the difference between the grass, the street, and what leads up to a house. And I'll tell you what, they were down here for me, and it sounds like wind is loud and it's coming in hard. These homes have water, if they're not lifted like this one over here, right up to their doorsteps. I'm looking far down, all the
And Captiva
did that too.
Just finish them. Captiva as well. The live pictures that we're seeing there, much of the same thing.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to wake up tomorrow and a good chunk of our cherished beaches is going to be washed back out.
Let's get out to NBC2's Dave Elias, who's on Sanibel Island for us. And Dave, what are you seeing? I know you've been touring a little bit, trying to assess the damage so far.
Yeah, so the winds have really picked up, and it's the heaviest we've seen. We just came across the Sanibel Causeway that you were talking about. My photographer, Mitch Gerke, still has white knuckles from holding onto that steering wheel, because I'm telling you, it was nerve-wracking. Right now, we are here at the Tarpon Bay Road Beach Park, and you can see water from the Gulf already up in here. We're talking now with Eric Jackson from Sanibel. Eric, they were talking a moment ago about the causeway, all of the work that is being done. I mean, obviously no reason to believe that the causeway will be compromised in any way, but certainly water, we've already seen splashing up over the road.
Well, the causeway is reinforced for the very purpose because of storms like this. So that's why they've been working so hard since Ian to reestablish that, to fortify it and make it more resilient.
And let's talk about beach renourishment. As we kind of pan off, you can actually see the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of beach renourishment. Talk about how much has been spent, and is it doing its job?
It's absolutely doing its job. So over this last winter into the spring, $14 million was spent in the largest beach renourishment project on Sanibel, and it's for this reason, the same as I explained for the causeway. It's to make the island more resilient. So as you see the waves crashing into the beach and you're wondering what's happening to that sand, it's doing what it's supposed to do. You can imagine what the island would be like without that berm to help protect it. So it's a good thing that we put it in when we did, and we're watching it do its job.
And just to explain, because many people feel like, oh my gosh, all the sand is being lost, it's sitting out in the middle of the Gulf.
Well, yeah, the beach is very dynamic, and some of the sand will move in, some may move out to the near shore area, but it will settle in place. And anything that we need to do to clear sand from the parking lots, we can do when this is all over.
Now, we have not made our way up to Blind Pass. We have seen some video and pictures. It looks like that's an area you would want to avoid right now.
I would avoid driving really anywhere on Sanibel at this point. If you don't need it out, don't do it. I mean, these are the heaviest gusts that we've seen all day. Blind Pass has had some water pushing sand over the road, and Public Works is out and clearing it when it's safe to do so to keep that passable. But please stay home and stay safe.
Eric, thank you so much for joining us. We, of course, are going to be out here throughout the afternoon, keeping a very close eye on things as these winds really start to whip up here. Live on Sanibel, I'm Dave Elias.
All right, Dave. Thank you. We'll check back in with you in just a bit. Let's go over to Cape Coral now. We're getting some images from our viewers of their canals coming up kind of high. And it's not a good hair day at all for most of our crews in the field. And here is our lovely reporter, Rachel Whalen, who's live at Horton Park Boat Ramp. You have been everywhere for this morning. We appreciate you so much, Rachel. What are you seeing out there?
Thank you. Yeah, my hair's not great right now, sorry, but we're also getting wet right now, but it's not raining. It's because of these huge waves coming off the Caloosahatchee River right now because of these wind gusts. I'm going to move a little bit closer and risk getting wet, but you can see them actually coming up and over the seawall. If you live here, you know it's never like this. It's always very calm. So this is quite the sight, which is why, if you look behind us, we got a lot of onlookers. We got a lot of people here at the park checking things out. We got some kids even playing here. One kid I spoke to, I told him, you know, this honestly reminds me of being in the splash zone at SeaWorld. And he was like, yeah, exactly. So people are just kind of enjoying this, you know. It's a different story for people who the water is getting up to their canal levels and getting into part of their backyards. We're going to go there next to check out those people and how they're doing. But for now at Horton Park, these winds are really ramping up and it's affecting the waves out here. You can see it through the trees too. I see this man kind of holding on to the trunk here for support because it really is that windy. We're going to continue to drive around Cape Coral for you guys, ask how people are doing, especially where those water levels are rising above people's canals. But we're going to send it back over to you for now. I'm Rachel Whalen. Back to you guys.
Better, worse, or about what you expected?
Well, I think right now, basically, things are fairly much what we expected. I wanted to make sure we're all aware of how the wind direction is going to play a big role in how things play out. In all these neighborhoods that you've seen live reports from in the past half an hour, in Sanibel, Evan and Matlacha and Rachel and Cape Coral, all these neighborhoods are now going toward a period of low tide. But if you take a look at the graphics here, at the moment, there's only a handful of areas in Lee County that actually have onshore winds right now. It would be the southern side of Sanibel Island, the southern side of Pine Island, and then communities like Matlacha are also seeing an onshore wind. For most of the area, for Fort Myers Beach right now, there's actually an offshore wind. There would not be any significant storm surge flooding right now on the north end of Fort Myers Beach because the air is moving basically parallel to the coast of the beach. It's not until this evening when the winds will start to turn more south to north, and that's when areas like Fort Myers Beach will have another opportunity for coastal flooding, even though we're moving toward a period of low tide later on this evening. So, you know, it's important to have in mind not only those tide times, but what direction the wind is moving, because that plays a giant role, of course, in where any additional storm surge flooding is going to pop up in our community over the course of the next few hours. This is just a really compelling shot here, and there's someone standing on that bridge on Matlacha. Look at that. This is that Matlacha area that I mentioned. At the moment, the water is being pushed between the western side of Cape Coral and Pine Island. That body of water is not very wide, of course, but when you have a south to north wind orientation like that, even though the water levels should be much lower right now because we're moving toward a period of low tide. As you can see, that certainly is not happening because of the intense tropical storm force winds that have been moving across this part of Lee County. Here's a look again from the Fort Myers Beach area. Again, the water is not up and on shore right now in areas of Times Square because the winds aren't directly on shore for this part of our community. It's blowing almost parallel to the shape of the Fort Myers Beach area. So it really isn't until later on tonight when neighborhoods like in the Times Square area will once again have the opportunity for onshore winds, and that will bring again the opportunity for another round of coastal flooding later on tonight. As we mentioned to you a few moments ago, a special update from the National Hurricane Center shows that the hurricane is now popped back up to Category 3 strength, and of course its massive wind field is why, even though we're nowhere close to where the center of the hurricane is, we are experiencing these tropical storm force winds in our community, as everywhere painted in this orange color shows you the extent of those tropical storm force winds. Now at the moment we are in a bit of a lull when it comes to rain bands, but I do want to make sure that you are aware that our community is under a tornado watch until 8 p.m. tonight. We had multiple tornado warnings overnight, multiple tornado warnings earlier this morning with rain bands. For the moment here, we are basically in between rain bands, but when you look at NBC2 First Alert Live Doppler radar, you can see the eye of the hurricane now due to the west of the city of Cape Coral. These rain bands, which right now are to the east and to the west of us, will continue moving in this north or south to north direction. But eventually, as the hurricane will increasingly start turning toward the northeast, that will allow these rain bands an easier opportunity to come on shore. And there is rotation in these thunderstorms that are just off the coast of Lee. Did you say 30 seconds? All right, let's fix the clock since we can get on the same page in here, all right? Here's a look at how the Doppler radar shows, and there is a lot of rotation inside these thunderstorm cells off the coast of Lee County and off the coast of Charlotte County. So the radar, though, shows that the areas of significant rotation with these thunderstorms over the Gulf are moving parallel to shore. So even though we do have a lot of spin within them, they should not move on shore for areas of western Charlotte and western Lee County. If I understand the timing here, we're going to toss over to a break, and we'll continue our team coverage coming up in just a few moments then.
These are implant dentures, a new solution for tooth loss that is changing lives.
I have a phone full of selfies now. I think I look great.
It's so easy. Everything happened at the office.
Now I eat what I want. I'm confident in my smile.
It's a game changer.
If you want your smile back
at a price that works for you, you need to call them now.
Secure, affordable, and made to last. Implant dentures, now from Clear Choice, the #1 provider of fixed full-arch dental implants in the USA.
At Clive Daniel Home, we believe when choosing a designer, scale matters. It's the full power of an award-winning team that brings your design all the way from inspiration to installation. We support our designers with more advanced technical experts, more buying power, and more innovative logistical support than any design firm in the country. Our team of 80 designers are able to focus on what matters. You. Clive Daniel Home. When scale matters.
You don't have to play golf to shop at the Golf and Casual Shop. See the area's largest selection of men's and ladies' golf apparel for both active and casual wear. We carry all the top brands, including Tail, EP Pro, and many more. Let our professional staff accurately fit you on the area's only track and launch monitor. We carry all top club manufacturers, including Callaway, Ping, and many more. Remember, it's not how you play. First in golf since 1971. The Golf and Casual Shop, only in Fort Myers.
We are your Florida metal experts. My name is Mark, the president of Florida Roofing and Gutters, and I know finding a good roofer is hard. Here at Florida Roofing and Gutters, we have you covered. With our state-of-the-art roll forming machine, we make custom metal roofs right on the spot. If you're in an HOA, we have a metal product for you, just like tile. Florida Roofing and Gutters, quality you can trust, savings you'll Florida.
The power is out. You're hot, bored, and the food is bad. You ask yourself, why didn't I get a generator? Bose Electric has Briggs & Stratton standby generators in stock now. We're a family and veteran operated company that's been in business for over 50 years. Our certified technicians will properly install and maintain your generator so you're always in power. Call today for your free Briggs & Stratton quote, plus get $1,000 off. Don't get left in the dark. Call Bose Electric today.
We're getting some reports of flooding in the Tin City area and parts of along Naples Bay, some of the communities along there, 9th Avenue. It's an area that will flood sometimes when there's strong winds, but the images we're seeing coming from here are pretty frightening.
Yeah, I've had some people sending me messages on Facebook saying, I'm getting nervous. It feels like 2022 all over again. We just want to reassure you, this is nothing like Hurricane Ian. This is very manageable, but there will be roads and maybe even some buildings that do get some minor flooding because these winds are pretty darn strong and they're not even fully on shore yet, which is when it'll probably be the worst.
And it's going to get worse before it gets better, but we're going to be here until it's over for sure for everyone. Again, we're simulcasting NBC2, ABC7. Let's get out to NBC2's ABC7, Alexa Velez. She's live on Naples Bay. We've been watching you in the monitors here, and Naples Bay looks pretty crazy right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. I checked in with you guys on the Cove, but we came down a little bit to standing here on a take a look at this sailboat right here. Somebody told me that's a generator. It's like a wind meter type of thing, but point is, it is going. And if you their boats here, they're down in the bay, back and forth pretty violently as well. And the water is pretty angry. It's quite elevated. An hour ago, it did not look like this. Trying to keep my head on, that's for sure. We spoke with a man right now who told us he was about to go work on his friend's boat there, that green over there. He told us he was going to go work on his friend's boat, that they had to paint it, and he said he wasn't too concerned because they've got it anchored down. But I told him I don't think you should do that, but he's not too worried. But anyways, guys, we're here live in Naples Bay on Landings Park. If you're going to go outside, please stay safe. I'm Alexa Velez. Back to you.
The NBC2 First Alert Storm Team, making your plans weatherproof. This team is tracking, updating, and alerting you first. So whether you plan ahead, make last-minute plans, or just go with the flow, make your plans weatherproof with NBC2.
Our Natuzzi Editions warehouse sale is going on now. We're moving out of a warehouse filled with Italian leather seating. Hurry in to save up to 40% off, plus take an extra 10% off and enjoy free delivery. Only at Motter Brothers Furniture and Design.
Protecting your home from severe weather doesn't have to be complicated. Since 1996, Storm Smart has made getting the best storm protection easy. Our storm catcher screens and aluminum shutters are designed and manufactured windows and doors. We have products that make any opening in your home safer, more functional, and more beautiful. Because Smart is making it easy to protect your home, and Smart is simple. Call Storm Smart today for your free in-home consultation.
Hey, man, my guy. This guy.
Remembering that one guy's name is hard. Hiring Morgan & Morgan for your injury is easy.
My man.
Morgan & Morgan. The choice is easy.
This hurricane season, NBC2 and ABC7 are joining forces to bring you Southwest Florida's most experienced, most accurate storm coverage, together for one goal, to keep you safe during every storm. Get more from the weather experts you count on.
Whatever you need to do this fall, AutoNation has your back. Delivering food, an entire team, or a very special delivery. We have an unmatched selection of vehicles at great savings. See us at AutoNation Toyota. Drive a new 2025 Toyota Camry for just $299 a month, or lease a new RAV4 for only $319 a month. Visit AutoNation Toyota today. What drives you drives us.
Welcome back to our special coverage on NBC2 and ABC7 as we continue to track Hurricane Helene for you. Peter Bush with Kelly Burns, Chief Meteorologist Allison Ray, and Rob Duns. You guys are keeping an eye on what's going on with Helene. What do you guys think so far?
So this is it. This is kind of the prime time for our region. It's parallel to our coast. It's moving off to the north. The winds are as strong as they're going to be now. It's not going to, turn off by 5 o'clock.
There's no hook.
We're not going to see the winds just kind of diminish completely, but we're still having these impacts move on through. And Rob, it's kind of unfortunately going exactly how we thought along some of the storms.
Yeah, I was going to say that exactly what you guys have been telling us the last couple of days. I feel like we're living out right now.
Yeah, your heart kind of sank this morning when I was rolling through Facebook and I saw those pictures from the town of Fort Myers Beach posting of how the water was up in Times Square, and that was just because of the tidal cycle. As we mentioned, it's still a few hours to go before there's a full-blown onshore wind. Thankfully, we'll also be at a period of low tide, so we have competing forces when it comes to the storm surge issue. So at least over the next 6 hours, it's the storm surge which is the biggest concern, and then for the rest of the night, eventually as the hurricane makes landfall in the northern part of Florida, it makes that northeast bend. It'll be easier for the rain bands that are now sitting offshore to move onshore. So the tornado threat will be something that will become a little more top of mind, say, in the next 3 to 4 hours.
Right. We're going to watch those rain bands come on through. And just a little bit on that storm surge. This is why it wasn't as high as maybe it could have been. If you imagine right now, we're still waiting for the southerly winds, those real onshore winds to push on through. If we would have had that coupled with the strongest winds and a increasing tide, our storm surge would have been much higher. But a lowering tide, the strongest winds are now, which is southeast. And then the southerly winds. It's all a big math equation.
If anyone deserves a break, it's the people on Fort Sanibel. We're grateful for the tides not coupling up with the worst of the winds.
So elevated water levels right now, and we're going to kind of see them ebb and flow as the tides start to come down, go back up. So water levels will remain elevated. They're not going to go back down to real low levels until potentially tomorrow. So what we're trying to avoid is more water levels that is getting too high, that it creates more damage and getting into homes. So if you have water starting to approach your home, if you're in one of those areas, please let us know, because that's going to give us a good indication of how the rest of the evening might go. But this is a look out at Fort Myers Beach, and the water is still kind of just on the coastal spots. We're not seeing that heavy rain just yet in that region. But we are seeing the rain kind of push on through parts of Matlacha as well. I'm going to kind of step over so I can get my slides in the order that I want them to. If you are just joining us at 2:30, they did upgrade the Category 2 Helene to Category 3. Remember, with the 2 o'clock advisory, they were at 110, which is just about 1 mile per hour shy of Category 3. Then it jumped up to 120. It just didn't rapidly go. We just got new information. So the pressure will continue to drop. This is unfortunately not done increasing just yet. But if you've noticed, the turn off to the north-northeast, it's just howling off to the north, 20 miles per hour. It is going to be off the coast of Tampa within just a few hours. That doesn't mean our impacts are going to go away, but they're going to start to weaken. A couple of things have occurred also over the past few hours. One, the orange color indicating tropical storm force winds have expanded, and the red color indicating hurricane force winds have expanded as well. So we are going to be seeing wind gusts have already been gusting. They're elevated, so if you have to consider that and you put the weather reporting site on top of a building, it's going to be much higher than at the surface. Even 5, 6 stories makes a remarkable difference in how strong that wind can be. And we had a report at Margaritaville of 80-mile-per-hour winds. That's hurricane force wind gust. So that is pretty impressive. That is very strong. And thankfully, they're gusts. They're not just a sustained wind. The gusts will start to diminish after the sun sets. We have gusts 50, 55 miles per hour. It will get down closer to 40, and by 11 o'clock tonight, 30-mile-per-hour gusts, much better looking. A few power outages are kind of going in and out. I know some areas are seeing some flickering power outages and loss of power, but we are going to see more winds in the way of some tornadoes potentially later on tonight, with more rain bands coming on through. And for more on that, I'm going to toss it over to Rob.
With that in mind, a reminder that all neighborhoods in Lee County and all neighborhoods really across the entire peninsula south of Gainesville are under a tornado watch until 8 p.m. tonight, because even though we are in a bit of a lull when it comes to the rain coverage in our area, as the hurricane increasingly turns toward the northeast, it will be easier for these rain bands to move on shore. Right this moment, there's a very strong rain band to our west and a weaker rain band to our east that's moving to the east of Lake Okeechobee. It's this rain band, though, that's closer to the eye of Hurricane Helene we'd be watching most closely here as you look closely at how these rain bands are evolving. Because they're moving south to north, they should stay just to the west and just to the east of our area. And let's be thankful of that, because as you lapse the radar here, you can see how based on the radar reflectivity, they are showing a lot of rotation just off the shore of Lee County and just off the shore of Charlotte County. If you were to look inside these radar scans here, due to the west of Venice, there's very likely a water spout over the Gulf of Mexico. But when you lapse the rotation, relapse the velocity product here, thankfully everything is moving parallel to shore, so we do not anticipate those areas that right now are showing significant rotation to be able to move on shore. Instead, they should continue on that south to north movement and stay just to the west of Charlotte and just to the west of Sarasota. For the rest of our area, of course, we have to be watching for what moves our direction later on tonight. As I mentioned before, again, eventually the hurricane, as we pick things up with Futurecast, will increasingly turn more toward a northeast bend as it starts to make its landfall approach to either the Florida Panhandle or the Big Bend region of Florida. If you were to look at where it's expected to be by 5:30 tonight and draw a straight line, you'll find that there definitely is more of a northeast expected push over the course of the next 6 hours. If you think about how these rain bands extend from the center of Hurricane Helene, the more east the hurricane goes, the closer the rain bands will come to our area. So with this in mind, over the next 12 hours, even though there's not much happening right this moment, through this evening, as those rain bands get closer to our area, we will have to be on guard for times of gusty wind and heavy rain. And like we've seen, because of course, again, we are under a tornado watch all the way through 8 p.m. tonight, the opportunity of some isolated spin-up tornadoes stays with our community. Here's a look at the regional futurecast view, picking through the hour. Does expect to see most of these rain bands staying just offshore, but after 6 p.m. tonight, the likelihood of some of these rain bands getting closer to our area increases. I've also plotted on here those moving arrows. Those show you the anticipated wind direction. So once we get toward dinner time tonight, that's when we have more of a south to north wind. That's when the highest risk of storm surge or additional storm surge flooding would be present in areas like the northern side of Fort Myers Beach, but more so on the southern end of Sanibel because the wind towards shore. When we come back in just a few minutes, we'll talk a bit more about the potential of some additional storm surge flooding, along with live radar analysis as Hurricane Helene, now a Category 3 storm, moves just off our coast, headed toward the north. Kelly?
All right, thank you, Rob. We're going to head out to Fort Myers Beach now. We've been showing you some images.
I'm going to actually, sorry, we just got some
are coming with also tornadic possibilities, rotation. We don't want that. So the rain potential is holding. You know, we said, hey, 2 to 4 inches of rain, which is very manageable. Some areas might get a little bit more. That will probably get to be a little bit more, especially later on tonight as a few more bands work their way in. But the rain holding off is a good thing. The winds are pretty powerful. What we'll continue to see and what we're really going to be monitoring over the next few hours, of course, is going to be that storm surge. So if you're inland, just dealing with kind of an inconvenient day, like I mentioned, a lot of areas, this is inconvenient. But for some areas, it's going to be dangerous and problematic for some areas, isolated spots, specifically along the coast, and specifically areas that are prone to storm surge. We've had very elevated waters. The waters have just been so swelled up for all summer long with the king last week. We've just seen so much water. So anything where you see that water start to rise, it's just doing that. Low-lying spots in Fort Myers Beach, we don't see much yet. That's good. Debbie was a different angle of attack, but that angle of attack is coming with more of a southerly push, and we'll see those southerly winds in a little bit. Meanwhile, the wind field is expansive, so this is why those hurricane warning watches and also tropical storm warnings are